Good evening and welcome back to the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. This is part two with my buddy Rickie Sanchez. So, we were talking about what's going on your property. You actually gave me some insight on how you learned a secret to kind of cohabitate with them. You were telling me that you went back into some uh, Native American sign language.
Yes. So through the years, I guess everybody will have different theories and different ideas of what Bigfoot is, and I'm no different, right? I have my own thoughts and opinions on what Bigfoot may or may not be. So one of the things that what I found interesting is when people mention that Bigfoot has been around for hundreds and thousands of years. And sure enough, if you look at every Native American culture, they talk about Bigfoot. If you look throughout the world, from Russia to Asia to Japan, China, Australia, they all have stories of the hairy man, of a Bigfoot type creatures. Um, so one day a friend mentioned it, and it just made my mind just um, go in circles. So if they've been around for years, and some people, not everybody, right? I believe it. I'm not saying that I'm correct. I'm just saying this is a theory that I believe that they are basically part human, right, or some descendant of humans, versus the whole idea of them being Gigantopithecus or an animal type. For me, a lot of things that they do is basically the same thing humans do. It's just in a more wild sense, right? So every Native American back then had sign language, hand gestures in which they talked. If I'm saying it right, it's Plains sign language or Plains. Uh, uh, I'm going to say Plains sign language. I think that's how it's called. But it was the old sign language that most Native Americans used to communicate with other tribes and other members throughout, and mostly every tribe had a type of sign language, and they used that, I guess, more than verbal, although they used both, but it was always a gesture. So now, and if I'm not mistaken, your modern American sign language is derived from that. Um, so I looked into it. I looked up certain words. Now, through as anything, things degrade, and some people will have a different thought of what some sign language is meant or whatever. But so looking through it, I started using some of those sign languages with sounds, with some of my own words. When it came to like family, friends, I'm leaving now, or stuff like that, and I would use those sign languages I spoke into the woods. Um, and I can definitely tell you, I've always had activity, but some before the sign language was questionable activity. Like you didn't know what was going on. You didn't know, it was like more of a what are they doing now type of thought process. And then after the sign language and after constantly communicating that with them, although I still had activity, it wasn't that type of activity. It was more of, oh yeah, they're walking down that way. Oh yeah, they're walking down this way. Oh yeah, this guy just communicated with that guy, and that was it. And I remember after Don's situation, the property where they did not like him there. They made it obviously clear that they did not like Don there. And I've always had situations where people would come into the property, and like if a truck came in with somebody in the truck, you'd hear a wood knock when they come in, you'd hear another wood knock when they would leave. So they were always present. And then I remember my brother came down for a whole month. And and my brother doesn't. I can't say doesn't. He doesn't go into the whole cryptid things. He's seen the pictures, he's seen some of the audios that I have and whatnot. So he'll scratch his head. He won't give thought to it, but it's just, whatever. So one of the instructions that I gave him was, when the sun goes down, you go into the cabin. You do not go outside for nothing. And when the sun goes up, that's your cue to come out of the cabin whenever you want. But when he came, the night that he came, my dogs were barking up a storm. New person. They don't know him, so they were all acting defensive and growling and barking, and they were just going off. And as we were talking outside, because he's never been to the property, so he was looking around and whatnot, and we were talking, and I was pointing to where I wanted this, I wanted that, and it was dark outside, but I had a headlamp, we had flashlights, so we were just looking around. And I specifically could hear them coming from the backside towards at one point, because the dogs wouldn't just shut up. They would not shut up. So I know for a fact that they were thinking, what the hell is going on up there, because they're all barking too much. Normally they'll bark for a little bit and that's it. And these guys were just not shutting up. So I heard them and I told my brother, here they come. He looked at me and there was an eye shine that popped up, which he saw that one eye shine. He doesn't know much about cryptids. He doesn't, he's going to attribute things to other things versus saying, yep, that's a dogman or that's a Bigfoot, because he's never seen anything. But I remember going that same night and doing my, plain sign language for family. And I pointed to my brother and I said it like multiple times. This is family, right? Protect him, family. And sure enough, for the whole month of the time he was here, he had zero activity during the daytime. Zero activity during the daytime. At nighttime, because of my app, I would hear them moving around at nighttime, with the app that I was mentioning, because I have a sleeping app. And in the summertime, the sleep app would record noises outside, their vocals, their chatter, they're moving around. So you can hear that. But during the daytime, unlike Don's case, you wouldn't hear them during the daytime. And at nighttime, they weren't, I'll use the word, bothered by my brother's presence. They weren't throwing things at the cabin. They weren't smacking the cabin. They weren't surrounding the cabin. They weren't, making vocalizations towards the cabin. He would have never known there was cryptids outside during that whole time.
That's incredible.
So I truly believe that they understand plain sign language. Maybe some more than others. Maybe some, might have twisted it a little bit, but they get it. And again, it's only I can only have my property as evidence, but due to the fact that I know that they don't like people in the property. Don has had stuff happen to him day and night in the property when he was there by himself. The fact that I left my brother by himself for like 8 days straight, I know that he never realized there was nothing there. So it worked. For me, it worked. At least in that scenario in my house. And that's how with the Bigfoot, the clan there, that's how I communicate with them, is using plain talk language and, my speech. I'll attached both the sign language and, my voice to it. And we've had situations where I remember one day I left like for 3 days, and I come back and I have to park in front of the kennels to feed the dogs, and then I drive back up to the cabin and park and go inside whatever. And it sounded like if they were messing with my 2x4s. You can clearly hear in a ruckus back there, and I'm like, because I was in the van and I kept on hearing something, and I'm like, what the heck? Then I lowered the window a bit, and I was listening, and I'm like, are they messing with my 2x4s? Are you kidding me? So I opened the door and I yelled out, knock it off! Just because I leave for 3 days doesn't mean you can cause havoc. Go, leave! And everything began to like like little kids scrambling to put everything back. That's how it kind of sounded. Like not necessarily that's what it was, but that's how it sounded. So in my brain, like, oh, bastards. So I drove up to the cabin and I had my headlamp on, and I went to the back of the cabin, and sure enough, I show you the video. As I'm walking behind the cabin and my headlamp is, panning about, at 1 second, you'll see the eye shine pop up high up and then go back down, like as it moved. And I'm like, I caught that one afterwards, and I'm like, dude didn't leave. He was like waiting for me to come back to the cabin, like saying, what? This is my property too. I can be here if I want to. Like, but they don't bother me. I think the only time they ever bothered me was when Don left. I think they were making a statement of, we don't like, because I know Don played a lot of flute, a lot of vocalizations and stuff like that in the daytime and nighttime. I don't know. I can't say that's for sure, right? This is only speculation. I don't think they enjoyed that as much, because normally with me, like, the night is theirs. I don't do vocalizations at there. I don't do stuff like that there. If they're there, I start talking to them in normal, and I keep doing my night chores or whatever. I don't bother them, and they don't bother me. So it was like kind of an interruption when Don came, because now Don, he plays the flute and stuff like that. There was other things. So when he left, that's where I got the footprint. The footprint was left in a obvious spot. Like the footprint, again, this is my thoughts. I'm not saying I'm correct, but it's like they were making a complete statement. The footprint was left in a direct line of vision, where this is where I always walked, and this is where you're gonna leave the footprint, right? And it was as clear as day. Boom, right there. And then at nighttime, when I would get home from work, they kept on. It sounded like if they were moving my crates and throwing them about. That's what it sounded like. Like if they were literally just moving crates and throwing stuff. And I would head to bed and I'm listening to all this stuff, and I'm like, are you kidding me? At first, I thought it was the dogs, but quickly I'm like, wait a minute, time out. The dogs don't have crates; they're in their kennels. They're big kennels. There's nothing in there because they have the roof over them, whatever. So this is like early fall. And I was like, that's not the dogs. So my brain was like, couldn't compute. Like, what are they messing with? And this went on like for a whole week of them just. It sounded like they were throwing things. Well, you heard the audio, right? It sounded like they were just throwing and tossing stuff and whatever. And I'm
sounded like they were having a tantrum, throwing a tantrum.
Right, exactly. And then one night, because I didn't pay attention, like when they are about and they're like, I'll use the word having a tantrum, whether it be that time or the other time, and I'm using the word tantrum as them not caring that I'm there, and then they just doing stuff, rather making loud noises or whatever. I don't care. Like, you're not gonna stop me from going to bed. If you're outside, I don't give a shit. I'm going to bed. Period. Right. So I'd come home and they would start. I guess they would think, well, we're going to keep them up. Well, no, you're stupid. I'm going to bed. Bye. Good night. Have fun outside. And I'd go straight to bed. So I think that kind of messed them up or irked them. And then one night, actually it was morning. because they always knew that at 4:30 I'd wake up to go to work. And one morning, right around 4 o'clock, I begin to hear that same tantrum on the other side of the cabin, where a window would be facing, looking straight at me. And as I heard the noise on that side, as I'm waking up, I'm saying to myself, "Well, great. Now they changed to that side, right? Are they stupid? Now it's 4 o'clock in the morning, so they're not doing it at 10:30 at nighttime when I'm trying to go to bed. Now they're doing it in the morning. Well, stupid. I'm already waking up. This is stuff that's going through my head." And then it clicked. Oh, wait. There is nothing on that side of the cabin besides woods. There's nothing there. Like nothing besides woods. Then I realized, wait a minute. You guys aren't tossing things left and right. You guys ain't throwing things left and right. You guys are vocalizing like if you guys were making stuff being thrown.
Wow.
All I thought it was a vocalization. Because that audio that you heard was heard on the opposite side of the cabin where there is nothing besides woods. Like there's nothing there. There's not even a freaking 5-gallon bucket. Nothing. Woods and leaves. Yet you heard the same vocalization on that side. So I'm like, oh, these guys, this is vocalization. They're mimicking vocals to get my ass up. Oh, it's too late. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm up. I'm up anyways. And it stopped. It like completely stopped. Whatsoever. Like a week after it started, it stopped. Again, I didn't pay attention to it. But for me, my understanding, my thought, and again, I'm not saying I'm correct. It was their way of telling me, hey, listen, we did not like being bothered at nighttime, right? Leave the night alone. Let us walk about. Let us be here at nighttime. Whatever. Just leave us alone. That was my understanding of what they were trying to say. Because I'm coming in at nighttime and now they're not letting me sleep. So, but after that, like I said, I learned the plains sign language. I've used it multiple times when they're around. They're just there now. I'm there. They're there. And that's about it. They don't bother me. I don't bother them. I'll hear them walking about at nighttime as I feed the dogs. I'll look in that direction and just ignore it. Keep going. They don't. And I think that's one of the main things they expect or want is to be just left alone. Because once they know that you know that they're there, and you ignore them, to me that's a very significant signal to them that hey, you're good. I know you're there. I just don't care. A lot of people. Go ahead.
When you moved to Tennessee, you were not a Bigfoot person. You did not go there with the intent to have experiences. You did not even want to go down that rabbit hole. And that's where we're kind of the same.
No, I didn't. It was because I wanted to stay focused. I started off with. It's funny because I had Bigfoot situations before Dogman, right? But my thought back then, and it kind of is still today, but my main thought back then was I always considered Bigfoot to be human type. So a human can act aggressively just for the sake of acting aggressively because he wants to act aggressively. He doesn't have to have a reason. You might have a psychological problem. He might have a bad childhood. He might have whatever, right? And you'll have individuals who every day wake up and they're basically forcing themselves to be good people because their minds want to be bad people. Those that can't control it end up in jail, end up in prison, right? So you have your psychopaths, you have your individuals who act upon their emotions. And again, those are the individuals that end up in jail, right? So when I see Bigfoot as human or a type of human, my brain goes to, well, I can walk down this path and all of a sudden get the juvenile who thinks he's the biggest shit, you know, and his testosterone is through the roof, so he's going to act stupid just because he wants to act stupid. So I didn't want nothing to do with Bigfoot researching whatsoever. Like I don't even want to discuss that, right? And I was into Dogman because early on in my research in Dogman, I realized that they acted more animalistic. So I was okay with that because an animal normally, an animalistic creature normally acts like an animal until, well, how can I explain it? Their actions are based on somebody else's reaction, right? So if you have, let's say, whatever animal is becoming defensive because you're in your property, if you can lower yourself and make yourself small, most animals will back off because you're no longer a threat, right? Well, for a human's sake, if a human thinks you're a threat, it doesn't matter what you do. If he wants to attack you, he's going to attack you, right? Because that's his mind. Animals tend not to do that, unless they were bred for it. Then you have your different issues. But normal animals have the that instincts of self-preservation. A cheetah is not going to fight a lion because he knows if he does, he's going to get his ass kicked, and then he won't be able to hunt. And people will tell you if you see a bear, make yourself big. Because if you make yourself big and they think that you're able to defeat it, they're not going to want to attack you because they want to live and hunt another day. So all these things go through your mind when you're researching animals. So because I saw Dogman as or having animalistic traits, I was more at ease researching
Mhm.
Dogman than I was a Bigfoot. So I had no thought in my mind. I've never for years had any thought of researching Bigfoot. I wouldn't even give my opinion when asked. I would simply say, hey, I'm not interested. I don't research Bigfoot. I research Dogman. It just happened, and okay, great. Now I move to the property, and what am I supposed to do? I can't. The only way I cannot is if I sell the property and move back to the city. But if
Mhm.
as long as I live there, unfortunately, they're there. They're there. I'm here. Okay, hi, how you doing? You know.
Yeah, my you're kind of like me. My experience, I'm not going to say my first experience, but the one that really brought me into the I guess the world of the cryptid was the encounter I had when I was on night shift, about 2 in the morning. But I'm a dog man person, so a lot of the people I've interviewed and the people that I've met have had the dog man experience. When I married my husband, I met him through the Bigfoot community, but he's a Bigfoot person. So when we go out in the field, our minds are kind of, I mean, we work together, but we think different things,
Hmm.
or kind of present a different way. But I do believe they do share. I'm not going to say that they sit around the same campfire and sing kumbaya or what everything, but I do believe that the dog man and the Bigfoot share ground. I do believe they're in the same area. I do believe it varies area to area and creature to I'm with David Pilatus. I think Bigfoot's almost like a hybrid human. Now he doesn't come out and say that, but if you want to know something about something, then you listen to people that are smarter or have more knowledge or research, and that's kind of the conclusion that I got from him. And when you look at all of his hours that he's put into it, and just some of the hands-on stuff he's done, I agree with you on the human aspect with that there's some kind of hybrid there. Um, but the more I get into the Bigfoot community and I'm talking to people, there are some very similar behaviors, but there's also some behaviors that kind of go with the same, like Bigfoot has behavior that's not like a dogman or other cryptid. Dogman has behaviors that you'll probably never see a Bigfoot have, but at the same time, they're kind of the same. Do you kind of know where I'm going with that? Because I feel like
Yes.
I'm rambling,
Yeah.
but now I had asked you earlier about Puerto Rico, because you go to Puerto Rico. Have they ever had any type of dogman, Bigfoot, any type of cryptid? What are you getting from that area?
So Puerto Rico has. It's funny. Since 1995, they've had one cryptid, which is the chupacabra. The
Uh-huh.
chupacabra is not the chupacabra that you see or hear about from Texas. It's a very different creature. Um, it's funny because when you think about it, you have some of there's there's a vocalization that chupacabras do that I've heard big dogman do, which is funny that I say that, right? Um, but theirs is the chupacabra. And I highly believe, and this is something that unless proven otherwise, I will never believe otherwise. Um, and there was a hurricane in the island, Hurricane Hugo. And shortly after that, there was all of a sudden these sightings of the chupacabra. Now, in El Yunque National Rainforest of Puerto Rico, there is a government observatory on top, on one side of the that rainforest. No one's allowed up there. Like literally, I have my cousin's husband's father, right? Worked for NASA, and he had clearance to go in there. And basically, they would pick him up at the entrance and take him in, and then bring him back to the entrance. So the car, if you were driving with somebody else, that person couldn't drive in. It was they picked him up there and they drove him to wherever and they brought him back, and everybody's fully armed. And I've seen a lot of things as you get closer to some parts of that rainforest. And a lot of people have disappeared. A lot of tourists who go hiking where they're not supposed to go hiking show up
Hmm.
a week later on the opposite side of the mountain. Untouched, and they don't know what happened. So it's a guarded area. So after the hurricane damaged that facility, and it just happens, coincidence, right? That after that happens, all of a sudden, a year later or something like that, you have chupacabras all spotted around the island.
Wow,
That's interesting, right? So
that's very.
and then the locals have seen trucks drive up towards the observatory with cages and noises like years afterwards. And I'm assuming as they collected these things back to the um, to that observatory. Besides that, many years that was it. That was just a chupacabra. I've had one Bigfoot story. I can neither deny nor confirm that story to be true. Apparently, they're not as big, or the one that was seen was not as big as the ones here that were smaller.
Hmm.
Um, but again, I can neither deny or confirm that. I do have a young lady. Well, she's not a young lady anymore. She's a mom, married, or whatever. Now, who lives in the States. But she lived in Puerto Rico when she was younger. She had a clan where in the farm that she lived, in the property that she lived. Um, and she had stories of them there. Um, which is interesting because when you hear a lot of the reports of the chupacabra attacking, or at least the the aftermath, right? So you
Hmm.
have some goats or some sheep or whatever with the tall tale signs of it being a chupacabra. They always found canine tracks around them, but that was it.
Wow.
So it was always interesting that if you never saw the actual chupacabra, what people would find in the aftermath were canine type prints around the kill sites. And I have, um, I had a social worker who was also on the search and rescue team, who are eyewitnesses, people from the search and rescue team who are eyewitnesses. So I have people, credible people, right, that have seen the chupacabra. I myself have had situations where there's nothing else that could have been. But this young lady reports, like I said, a whole clan from when she was little. Why do
Wow.
I believe this young lady today? Because it's an island. It's a small island. It's a 30 foot by, not foot, miles by 100 miles, give or take, something like that. So it's not a very big island. I can go around the whole island in 2 hours, you know? So how can a clan of dogmen live in a small island? But why would I or have that inclination to believe her to some degree is because I can show her any footprint of a dogman, and she can tell me if that's a right foot, a left foot, a hind leg, a right leg, um, whatever it is,
Wow.
because she's been present face to face with him when she was younger. And when I talk to the eyewitnesses that I've gotten the prints from, they will tell me, yeah, that's a left footprint, front footprint. But then I'm showing the same footprint to a young, like I said, she's not young anymore. Um, who now lives I believe she's in Georgia. Don't quote me on that, but she now lives in the States. I show her the prints, and she will tell me the same thing the eyewitness tells me. Right, so it leads me to the scratching in my head of, is this girl actually telling me the truth? Are there really dogmen in Puerto Rico? Right, and what connection do the dogmen have to the chupacabras? If any, because I'm not saying they do, but if any. But those are the only three. Like I said, one, I know for a fact, the chupacabra. Two, the dogman, because of the lady mentioning, the footprints. And the last one, which is, again, it was just one story of one Bigfoot. I can either deny or confirm that one. It's, I don't know how to even confirm that one. I've never heard any other stories from Puerto Rico when it comes to Bigfoot, besides
You
that
know,
one little story.
you told me a story one time about a man that liked to hit the bottle really good, and he passed out one day and woke up with cat tail in his chair. We
Um,
were talking about
uh,
herbs and remedies the other day concerning
well,
Bigfoot.
he's a good friend of mine. Love him to death. So he had some friends over, and I guess I don't know how it happened. Um, but he woke up. His friends were no longer there. Apparently, they went into the house to sleep, and he woke up with, let's just say, he woke up with things around him that he wasn't supposed to have around him, right? That his friends did not put around him, and you had dogman prints around him outside. So there's only one conclusion, and this is not far fetched, as I've had other eyewitnesses that have had things brought to them from dogmen. Um, I heard one story where dogman brought, I guess the guy collected guns or knives. No, I don't know, one of the two, guns or knives. And the dogman brought him relic of one of the two. Again, I can't remember if it was a knife or guns, but he brought him a relic of one of the things and left it on the windowsill where normally his office or his bedroom was at, something like that, for him to find.
Wow.
They brought gems to the other lady a whole bunch of times.
That's
Agates.
overseas.
Huh?
That's the overseas case, right?
Yes. Have brought her gems multiple times, like larger rocks that she has taken to a jewelry to break them up and do like a necklace or bracelet with them. Wherever the hell they find these things, don't ask me, but so they know, like if you have, I always tell people, if you have a dogman on your property, chances are it's been around a lot longer there than what you think. And it probably knows you more than what you think. For those eyewitnesses that say, because and I know you've heard eyewitnesses say, it looked at me like if it knew me. You hear that a lot. When an eyewitness meets up with a dogman, they'll say stuff like that, like it looked at me like if it knew me. Well, sorry to say, it probably did know you. And a lot of times, if you look at it and you ask the right questions, you realize that the eyewitness used to live in the area when he was a child, moved out, and came back as an adult. Probably to grandparents' property, to his parents' property. Now he built a home or something, or moved closer to home. So now he's in the area where he was a child, and this dogman knew him when he was a child. He or she. So then you have this encounter where the person says, "It looked at me like if it knew me." Yeah, it did. It probably knew you when you were a child, and then now it's looking at you, smelling you, picking up the scent. Like, I know this person. You look different, but you kind of smell the same way. Is that really you? Obviously, the person is freaked the shit out because he's looking at him that way. But it's not because he's trying to hunt you down. It's like he's trying to figure out, like, I know this guy. I remember this guy when he was little.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Just a quick question. It's kind of off the beaten path. You interview a lot of people. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. You're just a catalog of experiences and people reaching out to you. Why don't you give out your areas? Why? I know why my husband doesn't like to give out his area, but everybody wants to know, well, I want to go there. I want to have an experience. Why do people in the field keep their areas kind of sacred and secret?
Well, I'll tell you my reasons, right? And I got multiples. I've had eyewitnesses, and again, so the people can understand, the eyewitnesses that I deal with, unlike let's say, podcaster, right, or some individuals that collect information and write them out and put them in a podcast or whatnot, I deal personally with people. A lot of times I will travel, if I can, to that person's property. If I can't, I am dealing with that person's situation hands-on. Like I've gotten phone calls at 1:00 in the morning to deal with a situation that's happening like right there and then. Right? I've gotten videos from eyewitnesses from a dogman trying to go into the front door at 2:00 in the morning. What do I do? And I'm on the audio and video looking at the door jiggling. Right? So for those that are listening, understand that these are the people that I talk to. Right? These are the people. I don't have an email list of people. Everything's personal to me. So I have a lot of eyewitnesses, people who have committed suicide after seeing a dogman. Right? And some of these people that committed suicide are ex-military or military themselves when they committed suicide. because they can't comprehend what they saw, right? Which is sad. And then you go into the social media and everything's evil, demonic, or whatever. So now they think they have a curse on them. So imagine me giving a location to an individual who thinks they're strong mentally, goes in there, has an experience, and then commits suicide.
Wow.
That, for me, that's on me for giving you the exact location. Now that's one point that I have. Second point is you have those who are just crazy. They want the $1 million shot. They want to have an experience, but they have no backbone to them. So for them, it's always guns and ammunition and all this stuff. So now these individuals go into the area. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to behave. Something happens. They start shooting. They start firing off. They get violent. So now these cryptids have a bad experience with these individuals. What do you think is going to happen if I come in there 2 months, 3 months later? I might get the backlash of their bad experience. Well, guess what? I don't want that backlash because this is an area that I was researching. Right? I don't want to have to go through all the desensitization that I have to do with them to me all over again just because some idiot decided to go in there and act stupid. Right? And then you have people that they do this even on social media without going to areas. They take what you've worked so hard on and make it them for their own. Right? And this is why, unless I know that you're having a specific situation happen to you, like I've stopped talking to people and giving out information. Like I will drill you left to right to make sure that I know that you're having a situation so then I can step in and help you. Because in the past, I've had a lot of people who are known in the community, message me through a different profile picture, different what, just to get information, and then you'll hear them repeating the same information on social media, and I'm like, no. And one day I had to do a post telling people in general, unless the information came from me to you, do not listen to anybody say, well, Rickie said to do this, this, and this. Because my information was tailored to you. It wasn't tailored to John Doe or Jane Doe. It was tailored to you. John Doe might have a different situation. And I have to tailor what I'm going to tell that person something else. Hence why the 1,000 questions. The questions that I ask you, John Doe is not going to give me the same answers to the same questions. So I had a lot of people giving out these advices and making, oh, I know this. Oh, no, you don't. You texted somebody, you messaged somebody, that person gave you that information about an experience somebody else had, right? And it just, people go into places and they make their shit their own. I'm like, seriously? Right? So you're telling me that all the 10 years that I've worked on to make this area safe and for the cryptids to come out to my presence, right? Or feel comfortable with my presence. So now you go in there, they're expecting, oh, this guy is not going to do nothing, right? Now you have experiences. Oh, yeah, I go here. Bullshit. What happened to the guy who came before you? You know what I'm saying? It's like, no. You ain't getting jack diddly squat from me. I don't give out information. If I have let's say, for instance, I traveled through Arizona and this happened. Okay, I might tell you, yeah, in this town, I had this experience when I drove by, right? Because it's not really a research area. I just had a situation that happened in that town at that particular moment in time. But for specific places that I wake up in the morning, suit up, let's just say, right, and head out to the woods or stay overnight, you're not getting that spot, not even in a million years. And the people that go with me are the same. And if I were to take somebody, I mean, I don't take people in general. And if I do, I must know you for many years to trust you enough to say, okay, yeah, sure, come over and stay, But I don't. And those are the reasons I don't. It's just, no. will not.
And people will literally go in and destroy an area that there is no, for some people, not all, there is no concept on leaving it better than what you found it. You find gross things hanging from trees, just they trash an area, and it's, I think the secrecy isn't that I got something you don't. It's that there are people out there that are after a fast buck, or like you said, want the $1 million shot, or the likes on a YouTube or TikTok, and they have no concept on what they leave behind for the people that leave there to have to deal with.
Uh-huh.
And that's where integrity to the people that you're working with and the people that have reached out to you, that is where that integrity and that character of the person plays a lot in it.
Yep.
That's just my
Yeah,
2 cents.
and that happens a lot. They disrupt the environment, and once the environment is disrupted, I mean, to get it back, especially with the cryptids, to get it back the way it was before some idiot disrupts it, it's hard. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, why? No, you don't. No, why don't you say I'm not? Because I'm not. I don't know your ass. You know, and then people people call you or message you and they ask the most dumbest questions, like straight out the bat. Questions like, "Well, do you have any videos? Do you have any pictures? Do you have any this? Do you have?" Like, I don't care if I have pictures of whatever. You don't just message me the first day and expect me just to give you shit, right? That's another thing I don't get. People, like, let's take any other profession, right? Let's say you're a carpenter. So you charge people for carpentry, to do decks, to do homes, to do whatever. If you're a mechanic, you charge people for your profession. Every profession charges for their profession, right?
Hmm.
Yet in the community, and I'm not talking about having to charge. That's not my point here. But in the community, you have people who do diddly squat, have put no work in, had put no effort in whatsoever, and expect you, who have put in the work, have probably gone through multiple scary situations, run off, circled, screamed at, yelled at, growled at, right? All of a sudden, give everything he's worked for because you asked for it. Where does that make sense? If you wouldn't ask a carpenter to give you how to do this or that or this, or an electrician or a mechanic, right? If those professions wouldn't give you that knowledge for free, what makes you think that somebody who does this constantly is going to give any information for free? It just, I don't understand it. People do it all the time. Like, if the first question you're going to ask me on DM is, do you have any pictures? That is an automatic block. Like, literally, that's an automatic block because you have
Then
no
you
integrity.
then you have the bullies out there that just every other week they're in conflict with another person, and because
All the time.
yeah, I just yeah.
There was a phrase that somebody showed me once, which rings true to these bullies, is no one who's doing better than you will ever criticize you. He who
That's right.
criticizes you is not doing better than you. Because if he is doing better than you, he doesn't have time to criticize you. Because he's out there hustling. He don't got time to be criticizing people. He's hustling. So it reminds me, that if I had for any bullies, and I know you've had bullies in the past, bullies
I
do
used to be
shit.
a
That's why
little
they
bit,
bully.
yeah, I used to be a little bit more rough around the edges than what I am now, or you could say raw. I had zero problems bumping heads with people and making waves, But after a while, you just get sick of it. And I mean, but yeah, I don't like the bullies, and I don't. The areas and the integrity. You're not only building a rapport with the people in the areas, but you're also trying to learn or give respect to what's in the area. And a lot of people, like my husband has a super area. He gets activity a lot. Screams, knocks, just he had him and his buddy Lynn had something left out for him. I mean, they just could not debunk it. But he doesn't not give his area away because he thinks he's got one up on someone. He puts time. They were out there this weekend freezing their butts off, freezing. Their their mannerisms, the way they carry themselves, the work they put into the area. They would love to bring people in the area to get the experience because odds are, you know, once they see you're not a threat, you're going to get something.
Hmm.
But when you're almost throwing all of that away because there are people they carry themselves different. They have different characters. Some people just want to kill one just to get, I guess they think they're going to get $1 million or really just want to get a lot of trouble from
Yeah.
people, the government, everywhere else. But when you put
If you
that
get out
time,
alive.
that's it. But when you put that time in it the way, Johnny and Lynn has, you're not just up to, it's not that you're selfish. It's not that you don't want to share the experience. People, it's almost like they get fame hungry or
Yeah.
they want, and so I understand a part about the area. My area is the swamp. When me and Richard used to go out, we had really incredible experiences. I used to share those with. I literally would go home, and I mean, we would. I mean, it was you and Daniel and just a bunch that we were all kind of in our own little hub, and we would share back and forth. I had some pretty incredible experiences. I had someone want the coordinates to it, and where I went wrong is somebody was able. I gave up too much information, and they were able. Next thing I know, I'm listening to somebody's show. I'm not going to say anything, but it just seems to be the Dogman go-to show. But the story was not in my area, but they got the area wrong. It was right a little ways down the road, and that story was so outlandish that I just sat there. I'm like, there's no way you're going to open up, have that kind of firepower in that area and people not come out of their homes and give you a door prize for acting up in their area. There is no way that you would go in that area and you would have a shootout trying to take down cryptids, dogmen at a state park, and that not get out in the area. And I realized then there is not always good motive in people,
Right.
especially when you're out there, you're pounding the ground, and it comes back to either jealousy or you don't agree with them on something or you don't uh excuse my language, but you don't drink their kool-aid or kiss their butts. And
Yeah.
so that was a lesson learned for me on that one.
I had um there was a couple that I went to, and I won't mention names, and it's because it's not important. But there was a couple that I went to research dogman in an area, and it was the first time I went with them, and the last time I went with them. Um, it all has to do again with, like, for some of us. Some people ask me, some people think that I lie because their idea is that a person is going to go through some emotional situation or problem um, in which they're going to be scared or trembling all the time. I mean, everybody acts that way. And that's incorrect, especially if you begin with encounters that are, let's say, I'm going to use the word non-violent. You get used to it. You get desensitized to it. So then when something does surround you or growls at you, you don't overreact because you've been in situations before. So you get used to stuff like that. And a lot of people, who constantly are out there, they get desensitized to being yelled at, growled at, howled at, or whatever, and you kind of just bypass it. Versus the person who has not have multiple experiences. So this couple, I went with them, and again, it nothing bad. But something happened, which there was no visual, no indication that it was that. It was just the fact that one of them heard something in the water. There was a river that passes by the area. She heard something in the water. She heard something. She heard something else. She got scared, because she's seen Dogman there before. So her mind went quickly into, this is a Dogman. She pulled out her gun, right, and had it on the ready position, but in her hands. But then she's texting me that something's happening and we're coming back her way. Well, you have a person who's scared and has already pulled out the gun, right? It's already out. It's not holstered. So you imagine how bad it could have gone if my flashlight would have died and all she heard was movement going towards her, right? Like a lot of
Yeah.
things can happen. Her husband told her, how dare you holster that thing back, blah, blah, and corrected her. He's ex-military, so he knows. And again, it's not the ideal, but my point to this is sometimes you'd want to go and take somebody out in the field, but you're not sure how they're going to respond. You're not sure how their nerves are. So you go out there, I'm cool. My team of 3 are excellent. We're having a ball here, even though, quote, we're being surrounded and whatever. But this person is freaking the shit out. So now this person acts or does something that she's not or he is not supposed to do. Now sets off the whole environment to go south. Now we have to control him or her because she's acting stupid. Now we become erratical as well because we're trying to control her. They see the whole team acting erratical. Shit went south. All because we wanted for somebody to have an experience. So all of us think high and mighty before bringing anybody into the field that we don't know specifically. It's easier for us to bring somebody that we know has had years experience versus somebody on the internet and says, "Oh, I'm from the area. I would love to go down with you." As bad as I might like to say, sure, we're going down there. You have to think about it. Who are you? Well, because it's just no. I don't want to have to save a person's life and myself because the person decides to freak the shit out, starts screaming or starts yelling or starts running. God forbid they run. you know, because
Yeah.
now shit, I gotta go catch you and tackle your ass. No, just no, no, no. I years ago to some of those bullies, I've invited them out in the field. They all said no. Um, I've asked many so-called important people, into the field, and they've said no. I even asked a famous author, to go out in the field. His answer was no answer. Well, guess what? No answer is an answer. You know.
Hmm.
So it's just I've gotten to the point where okay, I keep to myself. I keep to the people that I know, the people that have a reputable background, and keep learning, keep understanding. and just keep going. Just with those individuals. So it's sad because you want to have others have experiences, but no, I don't know. So thank you.
Well, Ricardo, we're winding down our second hour. It seems like time flies, but you know what? I'm gonna give you the opportunity. 5 minutes to ask me anything about my experiences or my research you want to ask.
Well,
Because
you know what? It's been a while.
you have
It's been a
drilled
while.
me
So I'm going to ask you is where are you at right now when it comes to that?
where what with the
So so
field.
so when it comes to cryptids, have you leaned more towards Bigfoot? Have you leaned more towards Dogman? I mean, I know you mentioned that you go out with your husband and your mind is more towards the Dogman and he's towards more of the Bigfoot. But
Yeah.
like,
When I
where are
go
you
out,
at? Right? What's your main interest right now?
Dogman. Dogman because most of the people, my experiences, um, and most of the people that I've interviewed in relation to that. So when we're out and what I call Bigfoot, and I'm Dogman, and I mean my mind is stuck with Dogman because that's what I learned on, and that's where my experience is. So I will always be a Dogman person. I find the Bigfoot sightings, there are more of them, which leads me to believe that Bigfoot allows us to see them. I mean, even if it's like walking down, they're crossing the street, they see those headlights coming, or they know you're there. But I do believe that Bigfoot allows you to see them. I think they let you do it just enough for you to think you're crazy. But I am always, and my husband does not. He has never ridiculed me or tried to change my mind about my experiences with Dogman, which is why he's my go-to person. Um, their area has been more into Bigfoot, and so if I get a chance to go out in the field, I'm going in their area. I'm going with their experience, and I'm going with their people, with his people. Um, Richard and Tina and I were, we had the American Dogman and Sasquatch, team going for a while, and um, Richard's working a lot. He had no, even though he had the Bigfoot experience, where we tried to knock the tree over and the boat on him, but everything we found leaned more toward a Dogman. Um, the, the people I would encounter on the street on my job at the time, with the job that I worked with, they were more likely to share strange experiences with me. I'll led toward Dogman more so than Bigfoot. My partner Tina, um, she's a Bigfoot person, but when we went in my area, we basically focused on Dogman because of the history of my area, because of what we called on video there, and which I don't even to this day. I'm like, we debate back and forth what's on that video because it could either be Bigfoot or it could be Dogman or it could be some kind of hybrid. We have It's just a weird it's just a weird creature. So I'm still a Dogman person. The Not So Perfect Bigfoot show is, I named it that because none of us are perfect,
Right.
and we're learning all the time. And I just am in the Bigfoot community more than I'm in the dog man community. And I call it a devil dog now because but I go with a dog man frame of mind in a Bigfoot country. So there you go.
It's interesting.
Next.
Well, I've the same thing with me. Um, Now I just go in looking for Dogman, even if I end up having a Bigfoot encounter, um, because of the property that I have here now, has has forced me into the Bigfoot community. Well, not forced me into the Bigfoot community. Lately, I
Welcome
try to
to
stay away
the
from.
Bigfoot world.
I try to stay out of both communities. Like I'm the moderator or administrator to some groups, and I hardly ever comment. I try to stay clear simply because it is what it is.
Drama.
Um, too much drama. My personal opinion, like this is something, and I don't know if you've heard me say it before. This is something that till the day I die, it'll always be a learning curve. What I know today, or what I think today was not what I thought 5 years ago, and probably what I think 5 years from now won't be what I thought today. Um, but it's just I say clear because what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same shit all over again and expecting different results. So that's the way I see it when it comes to the community. Sometimes it's like people do the exact same shit they did 10 years ago, and they expect to have a different results, and hence why nobody gets nowhere, because nobody's learning. They're stuck on the
They're
same
stuck in the
mindset
drama.
as
They're stuck in the
yeah.
drama. You have to think like me, or you have to be like me, or we're just gonna, push you out of the whole community. But this is what I say: there are no experts out there. We're all ordinary
They're
people trying to find our way.
not one. And like I said, what I know today as being, my understanding was not what I thought 5 years ago. Hell, I remember when I used to talk to Linda Godfrey, because I used to talk to Linda Godfrey when I was in Puerto Rico. When I lived in Puerto Rico, right? And shit,
Mhm.
it's been over 12 years, 13 years since I left Puerto Rico. And I used to talk to Linda Godfrey, way before I left Puerto Rico, um, from Puerto Rico. And I used to thought it was just a wolf that learned because of an injury to use his paws to do things. Because people would tell me, "Oh, but it opens doors." Well, so can a bear. you know. Well, but it does this. Yeah, and so can a bear do the same thing too. So I always thought, and those are the things that I would tell her. Um, and sure enough, years passed, and you have your experiences, and okay, that mentality changed. And then you think one thing, and then years pass, and okay, that mentality has changed. And years pass again, and rather you add to it or you switch a mindset. That's why I asked, like, where you're at when it comes to the cryptids, because I know that obviously, when we all start, all of us, we have conflict on what's this. Are they the same? Are they not? Are they like what are they? Because that's the main question we all get when we all start. It's like, what the hell did I just see? Um,
That's it.
and it's interesting that through the years we all have changed, and we will continue to change. That's what getting knowledge is all about. But one day I expect to get to. I'm not that far from you now. I'm not in Wisconsin. I'm in Tennessee.
Yep. 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 I do not think that you're not welcome down here. You are welcome to come anytime. I'd love to see you in the woods with my husband and some of the debates and experiences you guys would have. That would be great. As far as Tennessee, it's a little bit of a ride, but I think we can get up there, brother. But I
Okay,
don't.
like I
Hey,
said, it's 10 acres. Y'all can do whatever the hell you want. Just know that
I don't.
they might not like your presence.
I was fixing to say that's why. I'll send him in first. But I,
Oh man.
I also find when you're comfortable in the environment and you're comfortable in woods that a lot of it's energy. You can have the best person with the best intentions go into the field with you, but if their energy is bad or nervous or like they're just unsure of it, they could be the best person in the world, but they're going to pick up on that energy and they're not going to
Yes,
like it.
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And we all do. Actually, there's been studies done on humans, right,
Mhm.
in which we can pick up electromagnetic fields from a person on another room and understand what their emotions are while being on the other side of the room. It's just that we've been dulled by electronics and technology. But all animals, all wild things, have that ability to smell different hormones, to smell, your to see your body language, because you can say you're good, but even in humans, if I've been trained to pick up different body languages, I can tell you you're not so good, even though you're
Yep.
saying you're good. So then that goes times 10 plus everything else in between. I totally agree with you on that. I've had people. Well, hell, the same researcher that was with me that I went to Tennessee with. She's a researcher, great person. I'm fine. I was having a ball. Like I'm being my feet were being tickled because I'm seeing this and I'm saying to myself, this is actually working. Holy shit! When I turned around and looked that way, like she's scared shitless, you know.
Yeah.
So I
And
I, I totally agree. It's
there have been times where I'll be like, yeah, kind of. There's been times when I've headed out to go into an area that I was very comfortable with, and I was like, nope, not today. I just yeah, I get that.
yeah.
Well, Ricardo,
I've got it too. Go ahead.
what do you want to leave us on? Anything you want to put out there? Anything you want to touch on? Anything that you know in your closing remarks? You got the floor, buddy. Roll with it.
The closing remarks. No, nothing. Just great to have a chat with you. It's been a while, you know.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. We have bumped heads a lot, but the one thing that's always remained was, the honesty and the friendship. And when there's been
yep.
quite a few things we have not agreed on and that we have just probably, if you could have a domestic over text, well, for lack of better words, we have really had some heated conversations in text about the cryptid worlds or cats versus dogs, noises versus. But the one thing it is, you've always, you've kept an open mind. You've always been a good friend, and I appreciate it.
Same here. Same here.
Blah, blah, blah,
Same
blah.
here.
All right, Ricardo. I appreciate you coming on. And maybe we'll have you back on the group chat because that energy thing, what you just said, I'm telling you, when we have our next group chat, I'm telling you, do not get my husband started on that because the two of you will, yeah, 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 yeah. I will never get a word in edgewise because he believes and says the same thing. And I agree
It
with him
is.
100%. Everything has an
Uh,
energy. Everything gives off an energy.
that,
All right.
I believe that 100%.
All right, Ricardo. Well, thank you for coming on the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show with your not so perfect host, Miss Victoria.